My sister Rachel is separating from her husband Mark. Somebody anonymously sent Mark a letter in the mail, claiming their 3 kids weren't his, ages 1, 3 and 4. Mark took a paternity test because the letter was so detailed he had a feeling it might be true. The results came back and he wasn't the father of any of the kids. Mark now wants nothing to do with my sister or my nieces and nephew. It's been hard on her and everyone has been shaken. The problem is my fiancé and I are getting married soon. Everything is set for the end of October and everyone is excited, but Rachel. She's told me multiple times to change the wedding date so she can heal from the trauma of her husband abandoning her and their children. I told her no and she burst into tears claiming I wasn't being supportive and she wasn't coming. My fiancé's family have all booked time off to come to this wedding because they live out of state. She claims I'm choosing his family over her. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. If she wanted to politely decline the invite, that'd be one thing. I'd be inclined to be pretty magnanimous about it. But asking you to reschedule? Yeah, no. It's on her to bear the consequences or fallout of her own horrible actions. Not on everyone else. So keep your wedding date. And just in case, maybe assign a trusted family member or friend to keep an eye on her during the event. In case she needs a shoulder to cry on or, God forbid, throws a tantrum or something. Tell Rachel she can spend the time and money she was going to spend getting ready for your wedding, getting her 3 and 4 years old into therapy to deal with the trauma she created. One kid that isn't his might have been her making a serious mistake and frantically hoping that the child was her husband's and terrified to ever tell. 3 kids in 4 years, none his. She created this mess and the only people that anyone should feel sorry for here are those poor kids. Dad's situation is frustrating too, but the kids are the ones with the most trauma here. If your sister ran around on her husband not once, not twice, but enough to get pregnant 3 times with children that weren't her husband's, she gets what she deserves. Your wedding is already planned, people have made arrangements. Not to mention changing plans this close to such a big event often means large extra costs from vendors. Does your sister even know who the fathers of her children are? She can go to him or them with her sob story. Her husband didn't abandon her and their children, he left a cheating brat. Your nieces and nephew are the only innocent ones in all of this. So get married, then do what you can to make sure the kids know they have at least one person in their family who is stable, can set a good example and loves them. People will focus on the fact your sister cheated and got caught. That has no bearing on your choice not to move your wedding date. Even if your sister's husband was the villain here, you would have no obligation to move the wedding date. Your sister's situation may mean she is unable to celebrate your marriage. She is not the star of the wedding. You are. I, 26, live with my sister and brother-in-law. I moved in with them last year after losing my job and my lease ended at my apartment. My sister and I have always been really close, but brother-in-law and I have struggled to get along ever since I met him. We just don't really have much in common, but we aren't hostile towards each other. Last weekend, my sister and her 2-year-old son went to a zoo with some other friends, and I was at home with brother-in-law. Brother-in-law was doing some work outside while I was inside working. I got a new job about 2 months ago that allows me to work from home, and I love it. But I am still in a probationary period and don't have a lot of leeway in terms of taking time off and have daily deadlines I need to meet. Around lunchtime, brother-in-law came inside to cool off because it was really hot out and was complaining of chest pains and having trouble breathing. He got some water and sat down to rest, but when the pain wouldn't go away, he asked me to take him to the hospital. I told him that I had deadlines I needed to meet and couldn't get away from work because I was still technically on probation. He told me to tell my job that it's an emergency, but I told him to call an ambulance instead. He said that an ambulance is expensive and he just needs to be dropped off at the hospital. I don't need to stay with him. He said it will maybe take 30 minutes round trip. I told him I don't want to risk my job and called 911 for him instead. The ambulance came and picked him up within minutes. Not even an hour later, my sister calls me and freaks out on me. She starts swearing at me asking me what the hell I was thinking by refusing to take brother-in-law to the hospital. I try to explain what happened, but she just keeps yelling at me, so I hang up on her and try to get back to work. I guess she cut her day at the zoo short because her and my nephew showed up about an hour later and she basically dumped her kid on me and told me to watch him so she can go to the hospital. I told her I still have work to do, but she said I either watch the kid or I get the hell out of her house right then. So, I put something on TV for the kid and finished up my work. My sister and brother-in-law came home about 2 hours later. I guess brother-in-law had heat exhaustion, but all the tests on his heart and lungs came back okay. Brother-in-law just glared at me when they got home and he went straight to their bedroom. I tried to talk to my sister, but she told me she has nothing to say to me because she's so upset and disappointed. She told me that we are going to have a serious talk about when I am going to move out because it is clear to her that my priorities aren't aligning with theirs right now. I tried to explain to her, but she cut me off and said she doesn't want to hear a single word out of my mouth unless it's sorry. Neither of them have spoken to me since, and I've pretty much been hiding in my room out of fear of them yelling at me again. I feel I did the right thing, but am I really the idiot? You're the idiot. It doesn't sound like you are contributing to the home, and now they have a huge ambulance bill to pay. You didn't even properly supervise their toddler while your sister had to go deal with an emergency. What did you expect her to do? She can't take the child with her to the hospital. You aren't adding value to the home life or assisting them even in emergencies, so it is time to move out. And of course, she cut her trip short to assist her husband. Are you really this immature? While everything was okay this time, it definitely could have been serious. 30 minutes round trip is basically a lunch break. I understand being scared to lose your job, fair enough, but 99% of employers would have accepted you missing 30 minutes to drop him off, and probably 75% wouldn't have noticed. I'm in the same boat as you, in probation period with deadlines to meet, work from home. If the round trip dropping him off at the hospital really would be around 30 mins, you really could have just took time off lunch or work later. That's the whole benefit of work from home where you have the flexibility to do things like that. I'm sure if you communicated with your manager that you had a family emergency they would understand, but you didn't even go that route. Honestly, if someone says they need to go to the hospital, especially as a family member, you should take them. It sounds more like you just don't like your brother-in-law in general, but don't want to admit it. We have a 4-month child together, and not once has he helped me beyond changing a diaper maybe once a week. I do all of the cooking, cleaning, and 99% of the baby care has been all me. I've asked him to take an overnight shift before, but he snapped at me saying I work, so I need my sleep, so I can put food on the table for you. To be honest, that stung, but I dropped it after that. Anyway. Weekdays he works all day and he's so exhausted when he comes home, he only wants to hang out or play games with his brothers and drink beer. I tell him I appreciate him working so I can take care of our son and go to school. I cook. I clean and do his laundry so he can just rest. Weekends he doesn't work, so I feel like he can help a little more. On top of being a full-time mom, I'm also finishing up my final semester in college. So on weekends, he had agreed to watch the baby for at least an hour so I can submit assignments on time, which is usually the Sunday at 11:59 kind of deal. Or let me take a shower since this child is glued to my hip rest of the day. Hence the 11 p.m. curfew, so I have an hour to do my timed exams, which is just enough time for me to complete. He has yet to respect the agreed upon time for him to come home, so not only can I shower and get schoolwork done, we can spend quality time as husband and wife since he's busy all week and goes out every weekend. When he told his brothers and coworkers about his curfew, I was immediately labeled as a controlling, nagging idiot of a wife. It hurt. I don't argue with him, and my requests are asked in a calm and collected manner. I have an exam due on Sunday. Can you make some time to help me, so I can knock it out? I guess if you're not there, it's easy to assume. Despite that, he won't come home on weekends until 1 or 2 am, ignoring my text when I remind him of my timed exams and homework. Then snaps at me, because I don't let him reward himself for working all week. I'm really hurt at the name calling. I pride myself in being laid back, flexible, and understanding. Am I the idiot? Should I just forget about the curfew? Setting a curfew is not the solution to your problem. You have a husband that is nothing a partner and father is supposed to be. You shouldn't have to be begging for help to take care of his child. You shouldn't be made to feel like because he works, 100% of all the housework, cleaning, cooking, childcare is on you. That's not a marriage. That's indentured servitude. You need to go to counseling for yourself to figure out how you get out of this marriage, or you stay in it and learn to accept that your husband is an abusive, neglectful partner and father who isn't going to change, and so all the compromise will always be on you, and you will need other support systems in place cause he will never be that for you. Not the idiot. You really need to stop being the laid-back wife in my opinion. Listen very closely, if you went back to work and had your baby in a nursery, that person would be paid to look after your child, which means looking after a child is work. If neither of you were able to clean the house and you hired a cleaner, that person would be paid to clean, that means cleaning is work. Not only do you do all of the housework you have to deal, what quite frankly to me must be an idiot. But you have to realize you have aided this behavior. This has to stop. What exactly other than money does he bring to your little family? Doesn't sound like anything at all. Sounds more like he wants to be single. Not only that, but he apparently doesn't tell the whole story, so is getting his friends to agree with him that you're controlling. This guy sounds a lot like my ex. Do me a favor. Look up the real true definition of narcissism. I found an article once and I swear they were writing about my ex. And you know what else? They never change. Ever. He's done nothing in 4 months. He won't help you. Please save yourself from the years of misery I had. You're not the idiot. A couple of years ago, I, 25, then 23, got invited to a filmmaking workshop with some big companies in my area. I wasn't really doing film at the time, I did theater, but my brother, 22, then 19 was studying film, so I thought he'd be interested. So, I invited him, and he did come along. A couple of months ago, in 2021, 2 years later, the class we took were commissioned to make a couple of films and get paid for it. We had to work in pairs, and whilst I know my brother isn't really motivated, he likes to game, morally, I knew I had to work with him. Anyway, long story short, apart from editing, which would take less than an hour, I had to do pretty much everything. I knew I had that coming when I chose him as my partner, so all good, whatever. We've been commissioned again. And we have a meeting tomorrow. I asked him if he was coming, and he said yeah, but only if I wake up in time. So I got annoyed and said it isn't that hard to go to a 1-hour online meeting, and he should go. My mom overheard from the other room and told him he should go. He got angry and yelled many profanities, like awful terrible profanities. So, I leaned to my mom and whispered that it's embarrassing to have to work with him and I'm gonna find another partner. He went off, telling our mom that she never believes in him and that it's not his fault he doesn't like the work. I told him that no one likes working and we're getting paid. Then he said he was mad for talking behind his back to our mom. I apologized for that, saying that I'm just frustrated. He didn't accept the apology and has been acting aggressive ever since. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot, but your brother is old enough to sink or swim on his own at this point. It sounds like you've made very effort to get him involved and give him opportunities, and he reacts with passiveness and aggression. Older sibling or not, at this stage in his life you aren't doing him any favors by coddling and doing the work for him. You're right, nobody really likes to work, but we all put on our big girl or boy pants and saddle up for work daily, regardless cause that's what it takes to survive and support yourself. If your parents want to support him forever, that's their cross to bear, but as his older sister, your duty is done. It is difficult to mix work and family, and even more so when the other party involved is not responsible, wants to do the bare minimum, or has a negative attitude. I get you feel bad about what happened, but you already addressed it and he didn't respond well, so there's little else you can do. The only thing you did wrong was choosing him as a partner and enabling his behavior. You learned your lesson. You weren't morally obligated to work with him in the past and aren't obligated to work with him in the future either. By working when he should be, you're giving your brother the wrong idea about how the world works and setting him up for bigger issues in the future. He's never going to make it as a filmmaker if he's too lazy to do the work. You should find another partner. Let him be mad. There's no point in letting him continue to take credit for work he didn't do. He's just going to continue to sit around and play video games while you do all the work. I live with my brother and mom. My brother has a pretty expansive group of friends and they come over pretty often. I'm also physically disabled, but mentally more or less fine for now, and pretty much all of my brother's friends have met me and are aware of that, and they're pretty chill. Recently there's been another guy he's been hanging out with that my brother seems to like a lot but has been giving me weird vibes since I met him. The first time he came over he kept making comments about my chair and they weren't necessarily bad or mean but it was just awkward, but people are awkward sometimes and that alone isn't really that weird. He also asked my brother what was wrong with me, like in front of me, which again isn't like the end of the world but is kind of rude. The next few times I was just doing my own thing so we didn't interact. But then this weekend he came over to play games with my brother and my mom wasn't there for a bit so my brother ordered takeout for his friends and me. My brother was mostly playing in his room and I was doing schoolwork in my room, but he came down for food with his friends so we could eat in the kitchen together. I dropped some food while I was eating, not intentionally, and his friend looked over at me and asked if I was retarded or something. I didn't react in the moment aside from kind of an awkward laugh, but when my mom came home I told her about it and now he's not allowed over anymore. My brother thinks it's not a big deal and that I shouldn't have snitched, but I think he should have better friends. And they're still allowed to meet, he just can't come to the house. Am I the idiot for snitching and getting him banned? You probably felt weird vibes by subconsciously picking up clues as to how he was acting around you. For most people it's a quick "oh, he's in a chair, that's different," and their brain moves on. But this guy keeps watching for some reason that I really don't know. Things like that which set off your radar. He wants someone to abuse, probably uses the R insult a lot in online games. Were you alone when he said it? Seeing how far he could go. Not the idiot. This is your home, and he is a guest. Your mom owns the house and understands that this wasn't okay. Your brother might not think it's a big deal, but his opinion doesn't matter as it didn't apply to him. I'm sorry they did that to you. Also, snitching is a word used by people who want to get away with crap without any consequences. Your brother shouldn't expect you to keep secrets from your mother. And never accept that kind of behavior from people. There is never a reasonable excuse for it. I have 2 older brothers and we fought all the time and teased each other. But if anyone else said something like that to me they would have gotten their butt kicked by my brothers. I think your brother should be banned too.